Well, that's the end of the headlines for this episode. Let's move on to some of the bigger news now, starting with Blood Money News! You know, I spend a lot of the early part of this podcast promoting upcoming comedy and fringe festivals that I will be performing at in various parts of the world. Speaking of which, come and see me in Mildura, Albury, Canberra, Adelaide, Melbourne, and some other festivals next year. And while I'm not above plugging my own shows in a story about blood money, one festival you won't be hearing me announce my appearance at is the Riyadh Comedy Festival, funded by everyone's favourite royal family, the Saudi royal family! Incredible. As the checkbooks behind 9/11 attempt to wash their international reputation through a variety of activities, including hosting the World Cup and most recently hosting their very first comedy festival. You heard that right, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS if you're worried that you'll mispronounce or forget it and be called racist or have a body part removed, created an entertainment industry as part of his Vision 2030 plan, the grand project to prepare for the kingdom's post-oil future by buying our sports teams, video games companies, and the morals of comedians. Which actually, funnily enough, is the cheapest one to purchase out of all of those purchases. This has been adopted alongside advancements for women and youth, making Saudi Arabia a hot commodity in the 21st century. It's not what we call earth-shattering changes, but scientists got very excited when we were able to measure a nanoparticle, and a nanoparticle is larger than the change in rights for women in Saudi Arabia. So it's only fair that we get just as excited for those two. Fair is fair after all. Still no word though on changes for the rights of journalists, but we can't do blanket changes. We can only address one small problem at a time, one infinitesimally small nanoparticle sized problem at a time. Many comedians, mostly American, of varying levels of fame were invited by the Saudi government to take money from the Saudi government, and according to comedian and people's champion Atsuko Okazaki, who rejected the generous offer to be censored by the Saudi government, who revealed on Threads a few of the details in the offer that she was presented to appear at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. She noted the accepting of the potential booking came with censorship rules that a lot of you can't say anything anymore comedians actually agree to, or must have agreed to, because you did appear at the festival. Participants couldn't make jokes that degrade, embarrass, or ridicule the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, its leadership and public figures, the Saudi royal family and legal system, and any religion or religious figure. Jim Jeffries spoke to podcaster Theo Von before then being disinvited from the festival. The gist of their conversation was that he wasn't too fussed about the killing either way, when describing the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi by the Saudi government for saying things that they didn't like. I think his exact words were something along the lines of, "Unfortunate, but not a fucking hill that I'm going to die on." Well, no, it wouldn't be, would it? It'd be a Saudi consulate, you fuckhead. What kind of PC gone mad, woke, you can't say anything anymore, Mickey Mouse government is MBS running, where a journalist can't even write an article about you without getting all upset? These days you can't even describe an extrajudicial murder of a journalist in an embassy as an unfortunate event without being cancelled from receiving a 6 or presumably 7-digit payday. It's crazy. Censorship. The festival dates were from September 26th until October 9th, which did, by some magic coincidence, coincide with the 7th anniversary of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And I know that timing is tough when there are festivals all over the world that you need to contest with. So you sometimes get locked into dates that are chronologically convenient for you as an arts-washing nation looking to make your reputation sparkle after the murder of a journalist. The festival was held in the ANB Arena. And while I suspect as much, I was unable to prove that the ANB Arena was in fact built by at least some form of slave labour. Mostly, my horrific Google journey uncovered this little nugget, that Dera Square is just a short drive from the ANB Arena and is colloquially known as the Chop Chop Square, as it's the traditional location of public beheadings in Riyadh. So that's fun. And frankly, who could remember such details given how much these comedians are defending their choice to go there? I don't know why other international terrorist regimes don't get in on this art-watching action. Inspired by this, I am expecting more of these comedians to start popping up in a whole new comedy circuit of varying levels of morality and desperation to attend. I have here a list of upcoming festivals from 2027 onwards that you can expect to see your favourite morally ambiguous comedians doing state-censored jokes about how free speech is better there than in America because nobody tells them to stop making jokes about trans people. So here we go. We've got the Al-Qaeda Comedy Festival, where the jokes aren't the only things that might bomb. Haha! The ISIS Fringe Festival, where outsider artists can put together their most daring works to date. But don't you dare criticize the brave warriors of ISIS. You can go entertain the troops at the Hamas secret base, and I believe it's a hospital, or maybe it's a school, I'm not really sure, but it's somewhere where the IDF has spotted children as part of the Gazan Eid celebration, right? The North Korean Comedy Festival. The good thing about this one is it isn't just the comedians who are killing. Oh yes, we're having a lot of fun, right? The Boko Haha Haram Sketch Fest. I will note, there is one note, no musical comedy acts please, because the group is so against books that even the Great American Songbook is considered haram. Here's a fun one. The IDF wants you to help them celebrate their 100,000th civilian murder in Gaza alone at the Israel Bomedy Festival. And of course, the CIA Regime Intervention Christmas Party, which will slowly overtake and replace the FBI Christmas Party and any other parties that it feels are partying counter to their needs as a party celebrating the Lord. So, some fun locations to look forward to attending parties at, festivals at, I guess. There has been a lot of online chat about who went to the festival, how much whining they'd previously done about either being cancelled or cancel culture in general, and how much they resemble a group who is persecuted in Saudi Arabia on a regular day-to-day basis if they weren't being paid by the government to come there and help them arts-wash the regime. Not to mention the defences they then gave that weren't the classic defence. Oh, well, they gave me a shitload of money and I don't want to work again, so if I get cancelled for this gig, it won't matter. You know, that sort of thing. Defences have covered the gamut of excuses. Whitney Cummings said, I guess I'm this weirdo. I don't operate under, the idea that every government and their people are the same. You think that the people of Saudi Arabia and the Saudi government all share the same values? No, we don't, Whitney. No, we don't. But we understand that you're being paid by the government, not the people, so it makes a significant difference. Pete Davidson, whose father actually died in 9/11, said, they're paying me enough money to look the other way, which is, very candid, but still very strange. Chris DiStefano joked that an upside of the kingdom's repression of women is that his fiancée can't come with him. Oh, whoops! How irreverent of him! And a bunch of them said that they were doing it because comedy is a great way to get things started, to get things changed, to start introducing change into an area, and they were honoured to be part of that, to be like the first steps to changing a country. In fact, the performers have assured fans by taking part that they're actually raising awareness for human rights, mainly for their own human rights, to first-class flights. But I also guarantee you a bunch of people Googled why Saudi Arabia bad for the first time because of this. And if these brave comedians have to take a six-figure salary to help people Google why Saudi Arabia bad, then they should all be up for next year's Nobel Peace Prize. Honestly. Anything to keep Trump from getting it for another year. So as a comedian, obviously I asked myself the question if I would have it in me to say no to that amount of money. I'd like to think that I would. Of course I'd like to think that, and it is easy to sit here and badmouth them from the moral high ground of being broke and not famous. And then I suddenly remembered the biggest payday that I'd ever been offered. I too was offered the chance to perform for a despotic regime who is out to crush opposition at all costs and has been responsible for multiple human rights violations. Yes, that's right, I was offered to work for McDonald's. I was looking at a $250,000 payday to do an ad for them. Not because of who I am, just because that's how much the ad paid. Ads don't pay like that anymore, that's for sure. Now this might seem like a bit of a no-brainer. Do the ad! There was one condition in the contract. You can't do jokes about McDonald's for 5 years after that ad. And as far as we know, the Saudi government only stopped them from joking about the Saudi government at that show. And seemingly beforehand, as a couple of people did get fired from the gig. So, McDonald's, it would appear, has stricter conditions than the Saudi government on silence. Which is really weird. It's just a strange way to operate in the world. They're yet to straight up murder a journalist, but I don't doubt that Grimace has some skeletons in his closet. They had to shift away from McDonald Land because it's a dark place with corrupt government and police who look the other way to allow Ronald and his questionable friends to bury a few bodies under those fertile soils. And honestly, despite, as far as we know, them not actually having conditions to not joke about the Saudis after the show, everyone is still actually defending going to the show. Like, it makes you wonder why. Like, you would think that they would grab the bag, come back, make a few jokes, boom, boom, done. Not necessarily morally justified, but maybe a better approach than defending the show to begin with. So here's a little like inside show business knowledge that it's probably logical, but you might not have thought about it. Just knowing how these festivals usually go, I have to assume that these guys haven't been paid yet, right? It often takes at least a month from the festival dates for the festival to pay. Truthfully, I'm still waiting on money from Edinburgh right now, and that happened in August, and they haven't paid yet. So no doubt they're still waiting for that 6 or 7 figure to clear before they even think about making a joke or two. And that's not going to excuse it, but I suspect that's part of the reason why people like Aziz Ansari, who after his last public scandal went ahead and married a Danish forensic data scientist called Serena Skov Campbell. Because let's be honest, somebody needs to give this man some guidance, right? He is making choices that are at best questionable. And I promise you, his next move was definitely her idea. What did he go and do?
For this Riyadh thing, you know, it was something I really thought about, and even before I went, I said, you know, I'm gonna do this, and I hope it's positive, and you know, if I'm gonna do this, I share the concerns that people have brought up, and it's all valid, and I said to myself and to my team, I said, hey, if we do this, part of the fee should go to support causes that support, you know, free press and human rights, and
like which causes specifically, or you thinking?
I think I read about Reporters Without Borders, which I think
That's
is really
a great organization,
and Human Rights Watch.
But, it turns out Human Rights Watch had some thoughts on the matter of being used as a human shield to cover the comedian's guilty conscience, saying that they cannot accept donations from Aziz Ansari and other comedians who performed at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. In the words of Aziz Ansari himself, "Oh no! What are we gonna do?" Aziz is going to have to do the more traditional means of redemption, a season of Dancing with the Stars! And only after a season of the public being surprised by his surprise ability or inability to dance, but getting up and doing it anyway in a public manner, only then will we allow him to move on from this subject. Though, I guess I am forced to point out that Human Rights Watch's inability to take money from human rights monsters and those who support them does actually mean that technically they can't accept any money from anyone who's ever ridden an Uber or eaten at McDonald's. I don't write the rules, guys, I just abide by them. But after Human Rights Watch declined the Saudi blood money, Netflix jumped in to offer themselves as a moral laundromat instead, offering up a stint on their new reality show, So You Think You Can Take Blood Money, where we offer increasingly higher and higher amounts of money from increasingly horribler and horribler regimes to do increasingly terrible things. And the last one standing gets the Netflix special. And even though Human Rights Watch did turn down the donations, they did offer up a suggestion that the comedians maybe should try possibly performing at a slightly less murdery venue in the future.